Outside the gates of Villa Park, the home stadium of Aston Villa, football chants gave way to something far more political this week. A crowd of supporters gathered not to sing about the club, its players, or even its historic European triumphs, but to belt out the now familiar chant associated with Tommy Robinson, the far-right activist whose name continues to echo through sections of English football culture. What unfolded was not an organized rally, nor a spontaneous outburst of sports-related emotion. It was something in between. A reminder that British football grounds are increasingly becoming stages for ideological expression, where tribal loyalty can collide with political grievance. The Tommy Robinson chant has been heard at stadiums before, from Millwall to Birmingham, from England away matches to street protests. But its appearance outside Villa Park is notable for two reasons. First, it comes amid heightened tensions in Birmingham, following pro-Palestinian marches, counter-protests, and claims that the city is becoming a battleground for competing visions of what it means to be English. Second, Robinson himself has been positioning Aston Villa and the wider Birmingham area as symbolic terrain in what he calls a struggle for English identity. The chant is more than noise. It functions as a signal. To supporters, it expresses defiance against political correctness, censorship, and what they describe as two-tier policing. To critics, it is a dog whistle for anti-Muslim sentiment and the mainstreaming of extremist rhetoric under the cover of fandom. The scenes at Villa Park are part of a wider shift happening in real time. The stadium, once just a place for sport and escape, is now, like Parliament Square, Hyde Park, or Downing Street, a contested public space. In an era where anger is content and identity is currency, even a pre-match crowd can turn into a political statement. West Midlands police did not make arrests or order dispersal, but officers were visibly present, a sign of just how carefully these incidents are now managed. In a post-2020 Britain where law enforcement is accused, depending on who you ask, of either appeasing radical protesters or cracking down on nationalist speech, every policing choice is political. Whether this was a one-off gesture or a sign of something bigger depends on what happens next, not in Westminster, but in the stands. If football crowds continue to mix identity politics with match day passion, the country may soon face a new and uncomfortable reality.
We hear apparently from the top brass, Morgan McSweeney, his team have the attitude, even if they hate us, they hate Farage more. And so the emergence here is of tactical voting. If your first vote is Lib Dem or Green or even Tories in split marginal seats where Reform could win to either Labour or the Conservatives, basically people will switch their votes. You've got a very impressive piece of software and electoral calculus. Martin, you've done two charts for me here. The first one on our screen now is without tactical voting. Talk us through some numbers.
Yes, good evening, Martin. As you say, viewers to your programme may find some of this a little bit familiar because we've been talking about it since September, but we're very glad that YouGov have matched our figures and come up with very similar conclusions, which is that tactical voting looks like it's very real and very important. And we can see that here in the figures. So displayed, we show what would happen if there were an election tomorrow and there were no tactical voting at all. And in this case, Nigel Farage would sweep into number 10 Downing Street with a three-figure majority of 118 seats. So Reform on 384 seats. So dare I say, possibly even beyond Reform's wildest dreams, or certainly at the edges of their wildest dreams. But a massive change up from just 5 seats at the last general election. If there were no tactical voting, then Reform would have 384 seats. But
okay. So, Martin, the next graphic, let's get the next one up, and it's a significant difference. This is with tactical voting, and you can see that majority slips right back, Martin Baxter. Let's get our second graphic to a majority of just 6.
So there's instead of being 3 digits, Martin, you can count it with the fingers of 2 hands there. Majority of 6, 328 seats. So more than 50 seats fewer than with tactical voting. And that's because not only is the tactical voting between the centre-left parties, that Labour, Lib Dem and Greens will kind of vote for each other if their own preferred party is not competitive. But YouGov measured, and we measured as well, that Labour and Lib Dem voters would even vote Conservative to keep reform out. So Morgan McSweeney is quite right that it is one of the straws that Labour can clutch, that it will certainly help Labour. They'll get, what is it now, 17 more seats. The Conservatives get 30 more seats, so it helps the two big old parties. But even on those figures, even with tactical voting, if everybody who says might vote tactically votes tactically, Nigel Farage is still Prime Minister, but with a smaller majority. But that underscores there's a massive political earthquake that we are seeming to look at the moment.
And Martin Baxter, the point here is it wouldn't save the bacon of the Labour Party. They would still be swept from power at current polling. And it's worth pointing out your figures here, I believe, are an amalgam of the last 5 polls. So this is a good, solid average. The Labour Party wouldn't survive annihilation at the election, but they would survive with a few more seats. The Tories would survive with a few more seats, but the net recipient is the Reform margin of victory is compressed, which could tip us towards something more looking like a coalition government. And if that were to happen, that would be a Reform majority with this data, potentially with the Conservatives. But at present, it's still not enough to stop Nigel Farage.
No, that's absolutely right. It's an average of 4 polls. But yes, we always love an average of polls rather than take just the most recent one. Everything you said is completely right. That a majority of 6, of course, if the wind could blow a little bit either way and Reform could be short of a majority, then a Reform Conservative coalition would be very possible. So it may not save Labour's bacon, but certainly if I was Labour or advising Labour, I'd absolutely tell them to say this, that a vote for Labour, only Labour can stop Farage, is a slogan I think we'll hear a lot of in the next 4 years.